Good evening, action and video fans. This is the General coming back at you with a very cool and important and hopefully highly anticipated G.I. Joe update on our, you guessed it, Phantom X-19 stealth fighter build. Rebuild, restore. This is the full feature, folks. You've been waiting months for this to see it culminate into this awesome piece. Now, if you guys have been following along in the previous videos, you saw where this stealth started. It was in bad shape. I mean, the sun damage on it was crazy. The canopy and all these other kind of things were absolutely crazy on it and was missing all kinds of parts. Well, over the last couple of months, the General has managed to pull it off once again. A custom build, and I must say personally I think it looks absolutely fantastic, which you're all about to see in a few minutes. And again, if this had higher production value, I'd have a drum roll or some cool metal music for the unveiling, but you just got me and my lovely Joe flippin' voice. Anyways, as you know, this is the pilot for the stealth fighter Ghost Rider. So again, all you aficionados know who pilots the Ghost Rider pilots the Phantom stealth. Oh my god, I'm so excited to show you guys. Anyways, here it is. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Oh, I can't hardly wait for this. Oh. And here it is. The G.I. Joe Phantom X-19 stealth fighter complete. Doesn't it look absolutely fantastic? Oh my god, did this thing ever turn out wicked? So, if you'd been following along in the previous videos, as you can see, I went with black. And I think that was the good color to go with, because aircraft gray, quite frankly, doesn't quite make it on stealth fighters, in my opinion. Anyways, and here we have this awesome build. Where do I start? I had to pull the camera back a little bit just so I can get closer into this thing to show you guys. All right, so I'm going to go and do stem to stern, front to back, port to stem. Here it all is. Ghost Rider. And as you can see, when I first started this build, I was thinking about going with a Night Raven kind of style top. Just in the sense of that shiny gloss black. But instead, I had been doing that, but the paint wasn't quite working. I was starting to pick up a lot of dust and a lot of particles and everything else, and then one thing led to another. And I'm just like decided, just to hell with it. I'm gonna just make it a flat black, just like a stealth fighter should be. So I went with this flat black top and flat black bottom. Just because, what can you say? Stealths are usually flat black, and that's what I wanted to go with. What can I say? This thing was absolutely fantastic. Anyways, as you can see, flat black. The decals worked out absolutely amazingly. What can I say? I've used them. I've used repro decals and other builds, and I gotta say, one thing I will say is that they don't tend to pop out in the same kinds of ways if it was on the aircraft gray. But in all honesty, I like how the decals kind of almost just, some of them just kind of look like they disappear into the finish altogether, and it looks like this is a stealth fighter, and again, the idea is to be covertly hidden. So you don't need all kinds of big flashy insignia and things like that in the same kind of ways. But here it is. Get some close-up shots. Some problem areas coming near the end of this build were the canopy cockpit. I was thinking about doing a all black through on the previous cockpit, but I was having some trouble, and so it led to pretty much a full replacement of the cockpit and the back cockpit glass here. So I think it looks great either way, just in its regular excuse me, just sort of light bluish color. It kind of breaks up the black a little bit. As for other aspects of it, anything that was like a missile or in this case the top missiles, the laser guns and the engines and the ramjet intakes and all these other kind of throughout the stealth, I chose to use a chrome styled a spray on this one. Again, a lot of this, like right in here was fluorescent green, and over here was fluorescent green, and as you know, fluorescent green doesn't usually go on stealths. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go and make it look like it's metal and everything else. Like I said, I could have done the whole thing in black. I wanted to have some kind of element, retainment in it that it looked like that it could look like it's part of the line and so forth. But I think I feel I brought it down to a more, plausible, realistic color of what may actually be used. I wanted to go for a simplistic, uh, sort of less is more, just kind of simplistic look, as though it was just rolling out of the assembly line or something to be presented to the general, air general, marshal, whichever, to get approved to go into duty. As I was saying, the missiles, the laser guns, I did find, one awesome parts to also find for the laser guns is the actuators. A lot of the time, these are missing. And so, just watch out for those when you're trying to complete them. It's definitely a part that can be easily missed. And as you can see, you got the nice chrome inside. Again, aficionados might decide to detail all this up, and you could do other things like you could add some layering and everything else. I just wanted to go with a nice, simple, just clean look. Excuse me. Other people might want to doll it up with just some more details or whatever in the laser cannons and things like that. What else can I say? I got those. Let's check out some of this engine work back here. And again, the just be careful. Anybody wanting to do this, again, black is a fingerprint magnet, so very. I would suggest that the next person, if they're going to own this fine piece of GI Joe, Canadian GI Joe folk art that I've just done, if anybody wants to own it, I would severely recommend that it is really meant to be going into a display case. And if you have to or whatever, just maybe just like you could wear gloves or such, or just the plastic gloves, or just be mindful about handling it. There's absolutely no clear coat on this whatsoever. I was thinking about doing it, but then when I was coming to the end, I was experimenting a bit, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. All of this has pretty well just one round of paint, so forth. I didn't go over multiple rounds because I really wanted to go for as clean and just as clean of a look as possible. If I had went and started putting more layers of paint on, I was just starting to run the risk of that. Painting too is getting too thick, and then it's going to start muddling details and things like that. So I just left it as a nice basic, just do over. And what can I say? It turned out great. Again, this plane is going to be going into your cabinet. It is not it's not a toy to be played with in the same kind of ways. I assure you, but it is awesome to achieve that look and achieve the look of a stealth, which I feel they absolutely failed on doing, just with the stock way that it's supposed to look. And yeah, so anyways, just that to keep in mind or whatever when you're if you're buying any pieces from myself or so forth, just to watch out for that. But otherwise, I think it turned out absolutely fantastic, the decals and everything else. Oh yes, right, the engines. So as you can see, I just did that same kind of thing, went into the engines and just in there and gave them a nice chrome, if you can see that. So I like the chrome look. There were other paints, I believe, out there, specialty order. I didn't find any sort of over the counter that could make it even more chrome like, if that's even a term. But it is kind of more maybe leaning on a brushed aluminum, the end result, but I feel it gives that effect of chrome. So I really like that. And I believe that was also through the Rust-Oleum paints in your local stores there. So what can I say? It turned out absolutely fantastic. The plane, when it comes to the landing gear, everything will operate the way that the Stealth originally should operate. I would recommend, though, a same deal, if you were buying it from me, although everything will work exactly as the plane is supposed to, just in the interests of keeping that finish nice and tidy. And again, if you're going to be doing this, I would recommend that when it comes to up and down with the landing gear, you can maybe test it, once or twice or whatever such, but then just, I would really recommend that you probably should just not really like up and down with the landing gear, because you just run the risk of potentially, kind of mucking up this finish. And it is kind of, it is kind of sticky a little bit to, just, and that's because of the paint, and so forth, just to get it to go up and down. And those doors could, like the doors underneath, which I'm going to show in a second, could cause some, just a little bit of difficulties in just trying to get around it and get the gear up and down. You don't really want to muck up this finish. So the truth is, guys, it's really supposed to be a piece that's respected and not really used in the same kind of ways. Obviously, there's all kinds of originals out there that you can do that up and down just fine, and this too will do that. There's no broken parts throughout this whole uh, this whole build. And when it comes to, and especially with the landing gear, I took special efforts to make sure that the toy itself will function the way it originally should. But just speaking from an aesthetics and keeping things nice, I would sincerely recommend that that this piece is, respected in a cabinet. And there's not really any point for up and down with the landing gear if that's all it's really supposed to end up doing. But anywho, as you can see, we got some nice chrome work going on here in the back, if you didn't see that enough. But and again, you pull these out, and and again, when you have the actuators, it allows the laser guns to pivot out. So again, that's a very important thing. A lot of people would just think that it's complete without them, and no, there's definitely that last little bit to make it do that. So everything functions exactly as it should. So and again, I think it turned out absolutely awesome. So anyways, I'm going to flip it over underneath, and hopefully nothing goes flying off it here. But as you can see, a nice beautiful bottom. Everyone loves a nice beautiful bottom. But anyways, here we got, underneath, and you can see a nice matte, flat, flat black. I think matte is the way they say it in French up here, or whatever, for a flat black or something. So anyways, here we go. I didn't have the original placement decal placement sheets, but I use them online, pictures, reference pictures, and things like that, where people typically go to put these decals. So I feel that they did quite well in that regard. And as you can see, and then right into the landing gear as well too, you got I painted all of that inside too, just to make it look like it's, that same chrome kind of effect is still going on throughout, and didn't just go from nice beautiful chrome, kind of looking inside this thing to to the original kind of how should we put it, shitty sun damaged gray. So I wanted to make it look like it was still kind of looking really nice and sharp in there. So yeah, there we have that. And like I said, I think it turned out quite well. And I got my missiles, I got my landing gear all straightened out, figured out. And again, talking about the landing gear, these are extremely can be pricey pieces to pick up or whatever, if you don't already have them going into the build. Again, mainly for the especially the struts or trees or whatever it struts that the inner segments of the landing gear connect to, for both the back and the front. Like the whole thing can be a bit of a pain if you don't have these struts intact. I've dissected and opened up tons of GI Joe planes, excuse me, over the years and so forth, and other vehicles and things. And I to this day, I've never seen something so kind of, I wouldn't say finicky, but it is definitely, as cool as this piece is or whatever, I can see why they would have discontinued it and discontinued this kind of style of landing gear. As far as planes go, when it comes to the landing gear, even the Sky Striker, and although it's older and you'd think, oh, there'd be, it's not too bad to do the landing gear in this. The Night Raven, the Night Raven I think is one of the few I haven't actually opened up yet. But I think I would suspect that even the Night Raven isn't as kind of finicky and although it can be sometimes, but this was definitely definitely a different animal of landing gear. So definitely be careful and just watch out for when you're trying to, maneuver that, especially when you're putting it back together. Again, everything has to pretty much line up. And again, if you're doing something like what I just did with this, definitely wait till paint dries and all these other things before you start trying to, you know, put parts back together and the top of the body and bottom of the body back together with excuse me, without mucking up your finish. Well, anyways, folks, here it is, finally, the Stealth. So yeah, I think that was so fun. I wouldn't mind actually doing another. What do you think? I think this one turned out well. I've seen other people do, like I have seen some people do some sort of color combinations of black and gray and things like that. I personally I feel it looks better in black as a stealth should. I actually just recently in looking for the decals, pictures of the decals, I found excuse me, somebody actually did a Tiger Force motifed one. And if you remember the Tiger Force, they were all yellow and black, like they had yellow and black and throughout their vehicles and throughout their costumes and things. And so it was interesting. Considering it's a stealth or whatever, I don't know if they would paint it yellow, but it's people have cool ideas for sure. Really cool execution. I think actually I'd seen another one too. What was it? The Python Patrol. Somebody had done a Cobra version, Python Patrol, and made it part and had that kind of snake-like motif in the body and in the finish in that. And that looked pretty cool. But anywho, here it is, the Stealth, the full feature, the custom. I think it turned out absolutely fantastic. Again, you let me know in the comment section. And again, it's awesome to even take suggestions of other vehicles to try to do. I have, like I was saying, I got a Sky Striker and the Defiant and the sorry, have ongoing Sky Strikers, the Defiant and Flag, and a couple other sort of pieces in that way, kind of up and coming. Oh yes, and stay tuned as well for the Cobra SMS, which is also coming along quite nicely. And the last 3 parts for it are coming through the mail, so definitely be on lookout for it in the up and coming full feature. So there you have it, folks. Once again, the Stealth, Great Canadian G.I. Joe folk art. I challenge you out there, G.I. Joe fans abroad, show me your customs, what you got. Because here it is. I think this is an awesome piece and it would look great in any G.I. Joe collection. And what can I say? Finally, 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 a Stealth black, the way it should be. General out.